everyone, it's Sarah. In the month of April, I'm going to be talking about writing better fiction. And today I'm going to be talking specifically about 3 ways to use the show don't tell rule. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard this rule if you've taken any sort of writing class or read any kind of writing craft books. But just to give you a brief explanation, the show don't tell rule basically means that instead of telling the reader something like, the city was full of life, it's better to show the reader specifically what you mean. So you could write about specific images that show the reader why the city was full of life. You know, was there a street musician playing the trumpet? Was there a hot dog vendor selling hot dogs on the street? Were there, little children playing with balloons and laughing? These are just examples that are off the top of my head. Now, I'm going to explain 3 ways that you can implement this rule. The first one is to give us some action. So instead of saying, I was really angry, maybe show us some action that gives us an idea that the character is angry, without ever having to say that he or she is angry. Like, maybe he throws his car keys across the room, or maybe he's yelling at someone, or maybe he stomps his foot, or maybe he slams the telephone down. It's always good to include action in your story. So instead of just talking about, what a person is thinking or how they're feeling, try explaining what actions they are doing or what they're saying. The point is, when at all possible, you want to be active. That kind of writing is generally more engaging to readers, and it will usually keep the readers wanting to know what's going to happen next. Number 2 is to use all 5 senses. So instead of just describing visual images, you want to also talk about what noises do you hear, what smells are around, what does something feel like, what does something taste like. You want to use as many of the senses as you can. This will give your reader a more visceral experience. If you are talking about the smells of grandmother's oatmeal raisin cookies baking in the kitchen, that automatically gives your readers something tangible to hold on to. So you just want to think about using as many of the senses as you can when describing things or when showing us something that's going on. The third thing you want to do is be more specific. For example, if you say, we drove downtown listening to music, that doesn't have quite the same effect as if you say something like, we sped down I-75, blasting Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, getting lost in the layers of instrumentation. The point is, you just want to get specific when you can. So go through and ask yourself if you're being too vague, if you could get more specific about something. It's a good idea to go through what you've written and basically interrogate each sentence and see if you need more information there. Now, one important thing that you need to remember is that sometimes there is a place for telling. Like, we don't need to necessarily know every single detail of everything your character does from the time they wake up until the time they go to sleep, if your novel spans over 2 years, for example. Sometimes it's perfectly okay just to say something like, weeks went by and ... Or, she knocked on the door. You don't necessarily need to go into detail about what kind of wood the door was made out of or what color the door was. Sometimes that can really slow the plot down. So you want to make sure that you are telling in the right places and showing in the right places. One way you can think about this is if you're going through and the things that you are describing provoke an emotional response from the reader, then you're probably on the right track. If we go back to the example of the door, telling someone exactly the sound that it made when she knocked on the door probably isn't going to be important to the plot of the story. It might be important to the plot of the story if someone's really angry, or if it's a knock that's coming very suddenly. The options are limitless, but use your best judgment and go through and ask yourself if you need to be more specific here, or if you need to quicken the pace with some telling. So those are 3 ways that you can show instead of tell. I'm going to link below to some resources on this. There are a lot of really great blogs and posts about this topic, so definitely check those out. Make sure you sign up for my mailing list, The Daily Writer, for daily writing inspiration. I'll leave a link to that down below as well. When you do sign up for that, you get to download a free copy of my ebook, The 30-Day Writing Challenge, and that has a lot of good information in it as well. Next week, I'm going to be talking about ways that you can grab your reader's attention right away, whether it's writing an interesting opening paragraph or opening sentence or beginning of a chapter. I'm just going to talk a little bit about interesting beginnings and how you can do that. So definitely subscribe to my channel if you are interested in seeing that or other writing videos in the future. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Happy writing.